He's lying. He's flat out lying. He's lying or he doesn't know, or he's stupid. He didn't do the research. He's just going along with what academia has taught him. Hey folks, Kerry J. Byrne here, the founder of Doug Adams, and we're going to talk today about what I call the original sin of cancel culture. The original sin of cancel culture is this: canceling Adolf Hitler's platform and even the name of his party. Everyone calls Adolf Hitler a Nazi. The Nazi Party was a right-wing hate group, and both those things are incorrect. There was no Nazi Party. There was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, an overtly leftist political movement, the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Hitler never used the word Nazi. It doesn't appear anywhere in National Socialist German Workers' Party writing or anything Hitler ever said. And this is what precipitated this today. I went through Mein Kampf. You got to read it to understand kind of how cancel culture works, to be honest. I went through Mein Kampf just to check, make sure, he didn't use the word Nazi there. And here's what I found. It was pretty interesting. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. 75 references to the word socialist, 35 references to National Socialist, 5 references to the word socialism, 3 references to National Socialism, and 11 references to the full name of the party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party. The word Nazi does not appear anywhere. It became English language shorthand for newspapers and in foxhole chatter, right? Nazi. They weren't going to write in the newspaper headline, the National Socialist, blah, blah, blah. They wrote Nazi. But in stories, it was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And for proof of that, I want to read you the first paragraph of the New York Times report on May 8th, 1945, the day that Germany surrendered, okay? A war that began 12 years ago when National Socialism came to power has ended in the complete defeat of German armies and the overthrow of National Socialism in its own citadel. Twice referencing National Socialism, announcing the surrender of Germany on May 8th, 1945 in the New York Times. Hitler did not use the word. The word did not exist in the name of the party. And why is this important? Why is this the original sin of cancel culture? Because here's why it's important. Here's why this is the original sin of cancel culture. They eliminated the platform from the party. The National Socialist German Workers' Party is an overtly leftist movement, an overtly socialist movement. It was a far left movement. We don't use the word Nazi at Doug Adams, nor did I use it in past reporting. I don't use the word. Ban that word Nazi from your vocabulary. When media and academia turned increasingly left, Nazi gave them a very convenient way to eliminate the leftist platform of Adolf Hitler, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the leftist, far left platform. And Hitler announced over and over his hatred for capitalism because it was run by the Jews. Bourgeois capitalism was his enemy. By the way, Hitler thought the capitalists were in alliance with the Marxists. So people, but his platform was essentially the same as Marxism. And why he disassociated himself from it? Karl Marx was a Jew. He calls him a Jew. Adolf Hitler did not want to be associated with Marxism and Karl Marx, even though his platform was the same. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Here's the problem. They have eliminated, no one even knows what Nazi stands. Do not refer to it as anything but National Socialism because you are buying into left-wing control of a political thought process. To the point that the academic world, the official academic world, denies that Hitler was a socialist. They flat out deny it. I'm going to quote you someone who's a complete fraud. Okay, the guy's name is Ronald Granieri. He's a fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, as well as a professor of history at the U.S. Army War College. He's a fraud. He wrote in 2020 in the Washington Post, the Nazi regime had little to do with socialism, despite being prominently included in the name of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. He doesn't explain it. He just says they had nothing to do with socialism. So I called him. I called him last year. He had no answer. He basically said, "Oh, that's what that's what I've read about. That it had nothing to do with socialism." That is the party line in academia. That the National Socialist German Workers' Party had nothing to do with socialism. Like he didn't name the party wrong. He didn't know what he was. But he did. And I'm going to tell you how. You got to read Hitler's platform. It's called the 25 Theses of 1920. And Hitler said we would never deviate from these, even later near the end. And here's the platform. Here's some of the points of the party platform, the 25 Theses of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, an overtly leftist party. Okay? Here's what they demand. We demand Abolition of incomes unearned by work. In other words, investment income. They wanted to abolish investment income for capitalists. You couldn't profit on anything but your labor. The ruthless confiscation of all war profits, which became confiscation of profits, period. Nationalization of all businesses which have been formed into corporations. He wanted to nationalize the business world. That's socialism. And profit sharing in large industrial enterprises. Basically, he went on to collectivize all the major industries, agriculture, and they demanded centralized control of education, media, healthcare, everything, cradle to grave social welfare. That was the National Workers' Party platform. Here's what Time magazine wrote about Adolf Hitler in its Man of the Year profile. Right? Some businesses have been confiscated outright. On others, what amount to capital tax has been levied. Profits have been strictly controlled. 80% of all building and 50% of all industrial orders in Germany originated last year with the government. This is not a capitalist society. It was a far left platform. And what does that sound like? Well, Time magazine is going to tell you. This is the American press in the 30s. And in the press for foodstuffs as well as funds, the Nazi regime has taken over large estates and in many instances collectivized agriculture, a procedure fundamentally similar to Russian communism, period. That was what Hitler's platform was, okay? And you don't have to believe the media. You have to believe my analysis. But you can believe Adolf Hitler about what he stood for. So his National Socialist German Workers' Party in the 30s was in rivalry with the German Socialist Party run by a guy named Jacob Streicher. So you had two leftist platforms, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which was what it says. It was a socialist German workers' party. It was a far left party. Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party was in rivalry with the German Socialist Party run by a guy named Jacob Streicher. So here's how he started out. This is Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf. The two parties were started with similar aims, but were quite independent of one another. Let me read that again. The National Socialist German Workers' Party and the German Socialist Party were started with similar aims, according to Adolf Hitler. However, Streicher was convinced clearly, this is Hitler, Streicher was convinced clearly and unquestionably of the superior strength and stronger growth of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. So he ceased working for the German Socialist Party and called upon his adherents to come into line with the National Socialist German Workers' Party. So now you got the German Socialists going in alliance with the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And why? This is Hitler, to combine with it, to continue to fight for the common cause. Flat out, straight out socialist. Okay? So what happened? The Nazi becomes so common that it's eliminated the actual name of the party. No one knows that they are the National Socialist German Workers' Party. When you mention that to someone, they deny that it was a socialist platform, like this guy Granieri did, this fraud elitist, from the Army War College, who says the Nazi regime. Now we have 60, 70 years of academia telling you that it was a Nazi party. They erased. Here's what they canceled, folks. This is why it's the original sin of cancel culture. They canceled the name and the platform of Adolf Hitler, and they've now tossed. They've made racism. They've made genocide. They've called that right wing. What they've done is managed to make racism and genocide a right wing platform. They've literally flipped the script. They've flipped the script. They've totally corrupted the dialogue, the political dialogue in the United States of America and other parts of the world. That people, even conservatives, even people on the right, believe that Hitler was a right wing ideologue, and he was not. Flat out not. This is the original sin of cancel culture. They were able to rewrite the history of the most awful regime in the world. And if society knew that Hitler was a socialist, like he knew, like everyone knew, like the world knew that he was a socialist, the world knew in the 40s. If everyone still today knew he was a socialist, socialism would not have its fingers into all different parts of society today. It would have been untenable. It would have been an untenable platform. The platform of the Democratic Party today, socialism and anti-Semitism, is the Adolf Hitler platform. It's also the platform of Islamic nationalism. And we'll get more into that, but Hitler was a leftist. He was a far leftist. He was a national socialist. He was a socialist. In Hitler's eyes, there was no Nazi party. They never used the word. It didn't exist. It's become a way for academia and media to reframe the conversation, the political conversation in the United States, and with destructive effect on our national dialogue. And we need to fix it. I invite everyone to eliminate the word Nazi from your vocabulary. National Socialist. Otherwise, you're contributing to the original sin of cancel culture. Kerry Byrne, Doug Adams.